near for our beloved Julian Edelman. Mariah, Janos, and Evan Lazar here. All right, Evan, according to Karen Guregian of the Boston Herald, it's doubtful that Edelman will be able to play the entirety of the 2021 season due to his many knee injuries, the latest one coming back in the fall. I'm not completely surprised by this,
Yeah.
but what's your reaction to this news?
Yeah, I'm not completely surprised by it either. And I think Karen just kind of hit the nail on the head that this situation, his knee is basically like Dustin Pedroia's knee was for the Boston Red Sox, where it's sort of a pain tolerance and a pain management issue at this point. The knee is structurally damaged, so he's always going to have to deal with this throughout the rest of his NFL career. And the question just really is how much can he handle and how much wear and tear can he continue to put on that knee? Now, Julian Edelman is going to be a Patriot Hall of Famer. I think there's a chance number 11 actually gets retired in New England someday because of what he's meant to New England on and off the field. But at this point, you do wonder if maybe it's best for him to walk away from the game just for his long-term health, because you definitely don't want to see him in a situation where he's, having trouble in terms of his afterlife of football being a struggle for him with his knee. So it's a big bummer for Patriots fans, I think, to hear that a guy that's tenacious, the hardest working guy in the building, someone that never quits, is just the definition of kind of tenacity, right? And just hunger. And to see that guy have to quit while he's still at an age, 34 nowadays in the NFL isn't what it used to be 10 years ago, right? There's still guys that are playing certainly into their 30s at that position. So you wish that Julian Edelman didn't have to walk out this way, but it does feel like he's the type of guy that you have to literally rip the jersey off his back to get him to retire. So it probably was always going to end this way for Julian Edelman, with his body giving out before his mind does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that comparison to Petey. He is the Petey of the Patriots. So it makes sense. And yeah, he definitely has to weigh those pros and cons and see what's really worth it. I remember Dustin Pedroia was literally saying, do I want to try and play another season, or do I want to be able to play in the backyard with my kids? And
right.
Really, that's what it comes down to, unfortunately. But what does this mean in terms of replacing him? Because it's kind of tough. Do you want to give up a roster spot? Like, what do you think is going to happen there?
So last year, essentially, Jacoby Myers started running Julian Edelman's route tree more or less. Now, Myers isn't the type of guy that's going to stop on a dime and make a quick cut on a juke route or something like that and get open underneath the defense. But some of the things that he was doing vertically down the field, the over routes or the crossers and things like that, were very Julian Edelman-like. So there were elements of Jacoby Myers' game that certainly line up with what Julian Edelman did. And Jacoby actually talked about that a lot last year, of picking Julian Edelman's brain about specific routes and coverages and things like that, and how Julian Edelman would go about beating that coverage on that route, because there is some overlap there. The other guy that I think some people are going to want to talk about is Gunnar, but I don't actually see Gunnar Olszewski in the same mold as Julian Edelman. I know that might surprise some people, but he's more, when he's out there at wide receiver, he's actually better on a vertical plane than he is somebody that's horizontally cutting underneath the defense. So I don't think they necessarily have right now on this roster a jitterbug like Julian Edelman, somebody that can make guys miss, somebody that can attack underneath coverage and be able to get open in a short area. But they do have somebody like Nelson Aguilar, who played a lot of Z receiver and a lot in the slot in his career. Jacoby Myers certainly did that last year. So they have some guys that maybe can have a little bit of an adaptation to the Julian Edelman role on the roster. And then we can also talk about some guys in the draft too, if we want to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, is it worth looking to the draft to find a replacement for him?
So in this year's draft, there is a ton of slot receivers, and not necessarily in the Edelman mold, more of in the Tyreek Hill type of slot receiver mold. These burners, right, that can really stretch the field or create with their ball with the ball in their hands. Guys like Elijah and Rondell Moore, or Jalen Waddle, if you want to go earlier in the draft, and Devontae Smith. So there's a lot of guys like that. This is a draft that's probably 9, 10, 11 guys deep. I mean, we can also talk about in the end of the draft guys like Tutu Atwell, for example, from Louisville. He's in that mold as well. So there's a whole lot of players that are now these schemed open, get the ball in their hands and watch them go type of players. And that's really the Tyreek Hill mold of this undersized slot receiver gone are the days of those guys being the shifty little guys that work the middle of the field. For the most part now, they're field stretchers and they're vertical threats, or they're guys that are used in gadget plays behind the line of scrimmage. That's something that I would really like the Patriots to invest in at some point. A name that has really garnered a lot of interest from New England in the draft process is Dwayne Eskridge from Western Michigan. He is somebody that does all of those types of things I just described, an undersized vertical slot receiver, and he's really a very electric player with the ball in his hands and hits a lot of home runs. Just throw him a slant and watch him go 80 yards to the house. He's that type of player. He also plays in the kicking game on special teams. The Patriots have met with him numerous times. He's talked to both the offensive coaches and the special teams coaches. So maybe a guy like Eskridge could interest them on day 2. But again, it's a really deep draft if you're looking for slot receivers. So the Patriots could certainly go that direction. It just might not be a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola type of slot receiver. It might be somebody more like a Deion Branch, who's a little bit more of a vertical guy in the way he runs routes.
All right, well, they certainly have options to choose from, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens and hope that Edelman can hang in there.
They always have options at the wide receiver market, and then they never draft anybody outside of N'Keal Harry in 2019. We always are sitting there waiting. This is the time they're going to draft a wide receiver, and they seem to pass. But this class, you're going to be able to get guys in the 5th or 6th round that have starter upside. That's how deep the class is this year at receiver. And it seems like every single year we say that because it's just a position that is blossoming at the college level right now. So the Patriots eventually need to scoop up one of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And these guys, they're just getting faster every year.
Very, very fast. Yeah.
So we'll see. For all of our Patriots coverage, head to clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Patriots Press Pass.